So my name is Jim Moyle. I work for FSLogix, surprisingly enough, seeing as I'm here talking about it. I have done for the last 6 months or so. And Benny wrote this slide and he managed to put Mr. Cool. That's the first time in my life I've ever been called cool, so thank you very much for that, Benny. But he did give himself the Dr. Accurate moniker.
Because he's German, yeah?
Because, yes. Yay!
Wow. Well, that's a subtle German humor.
Yeah. we need to work on that, Ben.
Yeah, I know.
So, how many people here know FSLogix? Yay! That's an excellent response. You, sir, you're going to learn a lot. How many people have deployed it?
Whoa.
That's not bad as well. All right. So if you have any complaints, we have the CEO here who will take care of all of that for you. You just don't talk to us. So that's Kevin Goodman here.
My other job is to buy beers. That's all.
This is why I went to work for Kevin. So, are you still eating? So I'm just doing this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just tell people, why did you join FSLogix?
That's a good idea.
No, don't tell.
So
Because of the beers.
just because of the beers, yeah.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to join something that was some really interesting technology, really interesting roadmap, and also I wanted to kind of work with Benny and Kevin because that's a nice thing to be able to do. Although I may change that opinion after this presentation.
Okay. So, I mean, I've been on the advisory board when FSLogix was still in stealth mode, so I was able to see what they were working on very early on, and I think it was the same for you. So, so we had a little time to get excited about it. So when it all started, and I think you started in 2012, like working on it. 2011, 2012. 12. And officially you came out of stealth mode in 2013. So this is what I've learned. Oh, the viewer changes some of the fonts. Okay. And today we are at FSLogix apps 2.8. And so we want to walk you through how it works. There's going to be a deep dive session that Kevin and Jim will do later today.
In the bar.
In the bar, in the pool. I've heard
Yeah.
it's going to be in the pool.
Alex is setting us up a microphone and a tally so we can all sit down and have beers and learn about filter drivers. And pizza.
Oh.
And learn about filter drivers.
Yeah, this is why this part is not going to be part of this section here. It just gives you an idea how the technology works. So basically you have a core engine that you install on top of the OS. And what it does, it establishes a filter driver, no, 2 filter drivers plus a Windows service. And the Windows service can consume text documents that include rules, how to configure the filter driver. So you can configure the filter driver dynamically, and that makes it so powerful. It is a file system filter driver. It virtualizes the file system. Well, it makes sense if you look at FSLogix. So the name gives you an idea. And so the unique selling point is to the operating system, FSLogix containers, which we will be talking about in a minute. They are attached as in-guest VHDs. And they are, to the operating system, indistinguishable from local folders. So the local OS, the local file system, believes that the attached VHDs that live on a file server, that they are local.
So this is really important because odd stuff breaks when Windows knows that those files are inside a VHD. Protected mode, so you know when you open up a Word doc and it says you must reopen it to edit, that doesn't work on a network. Cookies, don't work on a network. There's all kinds of weird things that break once Windows realizes that it's a network location rather than local, which is why we go on about this as something that's part of our filter driver. There's a few people around who are starting to do sort of Me Too stuff, and they say, oh, we'll stick a OST or whatever instead of VHD, but they fail at that point because you need the filter driver on top to make it work properly.
Because they attach a VHD that lives on our server, but then it's a share. So it is not as if it was a local folder. That is the difference. And what FSLogix does then, it puts different components on top of that core engine. And those components that have different rule sets, depending on what you want to do. And this is exactly where we're going to go next, because one of it is the application masking. So what it basically does is you install all your applications in the master image, and then you decide, depending on the user's membership of security groups, which applications are visible to the user and which are not. And we're going to demonstrate that in a couple of minutes. So this is what application masking is all about. And I think this was the first component, the first module that was built on top of the filter driver. Going from there, and it can be used for licensing control. So so we have interesting conversations with the SAM groups that go to customers and find out, well, how many licenses these customers consume, looking at the different apps. And so we can go with those SAM auditors through their processes and find out what they do, and they accept that we are controlling access to applications, and so customers don't have to pay 500 licenses if only 100 users are using a specific particular application.
So this is really interesting. So a lot of people find us through the Office 365 products that we have. But then once you go in and you actually talk to them, you say, what are your problems? And so, oh, this, and this, and almost always your application masking can sort that out. That's kind of almost like a hidden gem that people find out when they find us through other methods.
Very attractive use case for them.
So people say, well, I've got 30,000 apps, I don't want to install them all in my golden image. That's fair enough. We can also mask apps delivered in other ways via AppV and via layering. Now what this is key to is being able to manage the stuff that's really difficult when you're using another application delivery technology. So let's take a plugin example where you've got a whole load of plugins in Outlook, and you don't want to sequence a million versions of Outlook with different plugin combinations. You can hide those by application masking and then only have one Outlook image. Plugins is also really interesting in terms of performance as well. So I was working with a customer where they had a Sage plugin to Office. Now only a few users needed this plugin, but they wanted to keep a single golden image. So every user got it. And it added about 10 seconds onto their app launch time for every single Office product. We hid that plugin, and then except for only the users. So then they got the Office performance back that they needed to, and only had that plugin for the users. So it means that it works really well with other application delivery technologies. So the stuff that's hard, that last mile stuff, those 20% of apps that are always difficult, complex apps, drivers, etc., then we can cope with that. So it works well and better together.
So the Java version control is sort of a little bit of different flavor of the application masking, because what you do there is you install multiple Java runtimes and you assign individual Java applications to dedicated runtime. So you can say Java application number 1 uses the runtime with the version number A.B, while application number 2 uses C.D. So that is the idea. There's no packaging required, no sequences. I'm going to show you in the demo environment how it works.
So how many people here would like never to see Java again in their entire lives. How many people still have it in their environment?
Yeah.
So
It's a band-aid.
So if people
that.
have Java problems, so they need two versions of Java to coexist on the same OS,
Can I go back?
then
Yes, I can.
and then they love us for that because they have an absolute need and they take it on instantly. If you don't have Java, if you don't care about Java, then fine. But yeah,
Good.
but for people who love it, they really love it.
So the next thing is profile containers, and that is not a masking rule, it's a redirection rule. Again, using the filter driver, using, well, preset rules, configurations that allow you to redirect the profile folder. And like we said earlier, the local file system believes that this redirected folder that physically lives in a VHD or VHDX hosted on a file server belongs to the local file system. Well, and then because of that, it supports things that other mechanisms don't support, like OneDrive on Citrix and all these things. I know that Citrix is working on a solution for that using their app layering, but they're not there yet for CenApp in particular. They can do it for CenDesktop and VDI, so it starts working on that platforms, but they don't. They're not able to do it at this point for CenApp. So this is the gap that we're filling.
So one of the nice things about the profile containers is effectively simplicity, because now your login time is completely divorced from the amount of data that you have in your profile. Because all you're doing is attaching a VHD. It doesn't matter whether that VHD contains 200 meg or 200 gig. Yeah. So now that you don't care how much data is in your profile, then that frees you up to say, oh, you know what? Let's just keep it all. I don't need to write rules, say I need to keep this file or that registry setting and that. Just keep it all. Now, the only exception to this that we currently run into is My Documents. People still redirect the My Documents folder. Everything else, take off your folder redirected, doesn't matter anymore. Don't need it. Take out away all of your rules and just put everything into the VHD. And Microsoft thinks that this is a local profile. If you look at this profile, it doesn't say it's a roaming profile, it says it's a local one. So everything works, the app compatibility is second to none, and it's easy. It's easy to use.
When this product was released, it included the support of Office and Office 365, but there were customers out there that said, oh, we have our existing profile management solution or profile redirection solution. So it would be great if you were able to extract the Office functionality only, so that we can put it on top of our existing profile management or profile redirection solution. And this is exactly what the Office 365 container is. So it only implements the redirection rules and the filter rules for Office. Well, the Office 365, using the Office 365 brand is good for marketing, but in reality you can also use an on-prem installation of Exchange, so it doesn't make any difference. So you can have like any flavor of Exchange backend, and it works with the OST roaming for setup servers. This is the primary use case, and RDSH servers, or Horizon View on top of RDSH. So for FSLogix it doesn't matter because there's no dependency of the underlying hypervisor, because the filter driver is built into the operating system itself and does not rely on any hypervisor. So it also works on a physical box, so it doesn't make a difference. That's very important.
It's not much of a use case for this on physical box, but it does work.
Yeah. Yeah, some customers want it because they want to have everything, well, they want to have it across their entire environment. So they say, okay, if we put it on our virtualized environment, we have like 5% of physical machines left. Can we use it on physical machines as well so that the config is the same? Yeah, absolutely, no difference.
And a lot of people sort of conflate this with just helping out Outlook. Whereas for on-prem installations, we'll also run the Skype Gal, we'll run the click-to-run credentials as well, so you don't get any prompts. We also will do OneDrive as part of this as well. There's stuff for optimizations in there for OneNote. Coming down very shortly, we'll have all the stuff that we need to do to run Teams. As we all know, Skype for Business is getting folded into Microsoft Teams. So it's clear that that's the direction Microsoft's going, so we will have optimizations for that as well. So it's the full Office suite. Now, it makes sense for Microsoft to push the compute down to the client, to cache as much as things as possible, because if you're running in Azure, then allowing people to search online, etc., is going to eat up your resources rather than the customer's resources. So you'll see this more and more as they push things down to the client for functionality and resources. So this is not something that's going to go away. In fact, it's going to get much worse in terms of caches you need to run for.
The question was also, I had a customer who asked me, hey, how big can your VHDX get? What sizes of VHDXs do you support? And we went back to our engineering team and they said, well, you know, OneDrive gives you a terabyte. We can cache a terabyte and put it in a VHD if the customer has a big enough file server to handle that kind of size. Technically, it doesn't make a difference for us. Whatever the underlying file system supports, when you put a virtual disk on it.
So there's a great advantage of doing it at the OS layer, and that is in terms of efficiency and performance. If you're attaching at the hypervisor layer, not only are you then tied to that hypervisor, but it's also a lot slower. So if you want to attach a lot of VMDKs through layers at the hypervisor level, like some people do, then you're very much limited to sort of 10, 11, 12 before you start to see performance problems. We've scaled up to, what's the number of VHDs that we've attached inside?
It was over 1,000.
Over 1,000 VHDs simultaneously attached inside Windows without getting a performance issue. And we stopped there because we just like ran out of space and effort. Yeah.
Okay, kind of skip that because this is what we have already said. Roaming profiles where you need to copy stuff, folder redirection where you access file by file, and that takes a long time. And now what we do is we attach the VHD. I wanted to call it streaming. Jim did not allow me to call it streaming. What we do then, I don't know what the right term is, but you attach it because you are not accessing file by file. You're opening the pipe as if it was on the local storage. It was as if it was on a local drive, and so it's not a file by file copy. It is like opening the pipe.
So this becomes interesting. So I was watching the Avonite guys, and they were talking about having gigs and gigs of cookie files and temporary internet stuff, and etc., etc. And one of the problems with having both the caches or profiles living on a file server is that you get tens of thousands of file opens and closes. Yeah, I'm not too bothered so much anymore about IOPS. Can't believe I just said that.
Changed mine.
Oh, he said the word.
I know. But you want to make sure you're not overwhelming your storage with all those file actions. And because your files are now in a single, in a VHD or a VHDX, then you're holding a single file open.
Yeah.
So effectively,
I got to show that.
We'll show as.
There's one important thing. Microsoft asked RDS gurus to test the functionality, the Office 365 functionality, and there are white papers out there. And there's two blog articles actually published by Microsoft, and I can tell you, it was like 2 months of testing, and then 2 months of reviewing of the internal Microsoft product teams until they said, okay, yes, it really works as expected, that in such a way that we recommend the usage of FSLogix for Office 365 deployments in pooled desktop and remote desktop scenarios.
So this is effectively the Microsoft RDSH admin guide,
Yeah.
which is nice to be in that.
That was some work. Good.
So a couple of things I just want to touch on. One of the questions I get a lot is like, if you're inside a VHD and that VHD is then attached to a machine, what happens if I log on somewhere else simultaneously? How do you deal with that? You can't attach a single VHD in two places. And one of the nice things about VHDs is you can do Delta files, you can do a bit file. So if you configure it for concurrent access, then when people log on, they will get that Delta to the original VHD. And then at the end of that, we will merge the Delta back in. If you want, we could also do it read-only. If you want to do that and start doing a lot of VHD actions, then we recommend you stick the VHDs on REFS rather than NTFS. Because there is a whole load of optimizations on REFS that, for VHDs and VHDXs, where a merge is pretty much instant on REFS, but it will take a certain amount of time on NTFS. So if you're doing that, REFS is your man. And as we automatically create the VHDs and populate them, you can also stick whatever ACLs do you like on them, not manually, we'll do that as part of the creation. You can also have multiple VHD locations. So you say, go here first, if that's not available, then go to a different place. And although the VHD locations and all the other settings are local machine, a lot of people wouldn't say, actually, if I've got users who are roaming around, I want to make sure that they get their VHD from where it's sitting rather than where the machine is pointing to. So we can configure everything based on per user and per group as well, which is very handy. And another useful thing is, if there's a network issue or a storage issue, then to get to the VHDs, then what happens to Outlook? And it says, I can't see my OST file. I'll have a new one, please, Mr. Server. And then it downloads to your local, let's say, PVS write cache, blows out your PVS write cache, and you're in a world of pain. So what we can do is actually revert Outlook to online mode when you have any problems with your underlying infrastructure, and make sure you're not re-downloading a whole load of OSTs and getting yourself into trouble. So I think we've got to do some demos now.
Yeah, that's about it.
So,
Nothing.
instead of recording videos, which is the way I like to do it,
This of course online.
Benny has brought a Nook with him and set it all up.
Oh, here's back.
So very excited, very excited.
Yeah, I've brought the Nook, and the setup is fairly simple. We have a domain controller, we have an RDSH server, we have a Windows 10 machine to walk us through the different sets, the settings. And I want to start with the application masking. Okay, let's go here. There is the management console. Let's zoom in. And you see this is what the management console looks like. If you want to have a new application, you can just start a wizard. You give that thing, yeah, an E to E name. And then you can select from the installed programs. So if I want to use another, hide or mask another application, this is the way how I do it. It automatically creates those rules, and that makes it fairly simple. That works for like 95, 99% of applications, so only for some of the plugins, so we need to have additional work. Now, how does that look like when we apply those rules? So for that, I have a set of rules that I stored on my file server, and here is the local folder that the service constantly looks at if there are new rule files.
I'm just going to interrupt you there, Benny.
Yep.
You notice we didn't show you an architecture slide. We don't have any. It's all based on client, so it's scalable. There's no central SQL servers.
There's no backend.
There's no back end to this at all. So when Benny shows this demo, we're just moving some files around on the local client. That's all you need to do as well, right? You just need to be able to put files in locations, and we all know how to do that.
And you see the RDSH server over here. You see the users logged on. It's admin, Benny, Adam, and Berta. So now what I did is I logged on the users Adam and Berta. They're here. And I assigned them to different security groups. And I masked the applications depending on in which security, the membership of security groups of the individual users. So user Adam belongs to a couple of those security groups, while user Berta, she's the one down here in the second session. For her, Office will be masked. And you see down here, there is the icon. And there's a PowerPoint application that I have on the desktop, and you see that it is assigned to PowerPoint for obvious reasons. So what happens when I just grab these and move them down here to this folder, you see the magic is happening instantly. From that moment on, not only the icons are masked, also all entries in the file system, in the registry, where the components live, plugins, like everything. If you go to installed applications, you will not be able to find this application in the installed application. So, and you see down here,
So environment variables, file type associations.
all gone. So
all
file
gone.
type association, see here when I click, yeah, PowerPoint cannot be started anymore. Now I go back here and I delete those files. Everything comes back. I double click, PowerPoint starts. This gives you an impression how powerful this all is. Now if you want to do it in a dynamic way, you use device trust, because they can find out what's happening on the client. So if the user decides to switch off the firewall, then we get notified by that the context is different, and we can mask applications because now all the compliance rules are not fulfilled anymore, and so we mask the application. Okay, that gives you an impression how that works. Let's just take a look at the Java stuff.
So just to say, that will also hide printer drivers, printers as well.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that key for Adobe? Because you get bypassed on your printer driver. So if you can't see your printer driver, then you don't have to pay the license.
Okay, now I have Java. I configured the Java rule edit, the rules, so that Java test.exe is assigned to one Java version that's installed, and Java test2, which is in fact the same app, exactly the same application, just renamed to Java 2, to version 1.6. Now I go here and I have these apps in here, so I start Java test, and you see it's 1.4. Say OK, and I do the same thing for 2. Well, and it's 1.6. And it was as easy as just assigning one Java runtime. I have total I have 3 Java runtimes installed in this image, and it was so easy to assign the different Java applications to different runtimes. So it's a fairly simple demo, and it gives you an idea how you can extend the masking that I've demonstrated earlier.
So one of the nice things about that is that if you're forced into running an older version of Java, which has horrendous security holes in it, well, we aren't going to fix the version of Java for you, but what we can do is reduce the attack surface by making that old, horrible version of Java only available to a certain process that is run from a certain location. So at least in that way, you're reducing your vulnerability.
Okay, now I want to connect to my user Benny, because user Benny, he runs a session on the RDSH server. You have seen it before. There was user Adam and Berta and Benny, and this is user Benny. Okay, so the trick here is, oh, Roy sent me an email. Yeah, this is my
Going on in there.
this is my real Office 365 account. So this is no fake demo. And even more, it's hidden behind a net so that Remco cannot, because he's doing a session next door, and I was kind of scared, so I added everything so that this session is not visible to the outside world in this hotel network. So the good thing is, if I start searching here, like search for Kevin, and it does its job, and if I look here, so the search index is already populated. And you know what happens when typically user log off on an RDSH machine and then log back on, because the indexing starts again, because no other technology can cache the search index. So
I want to dig into that a bit, if you don't mind.
yeah, while I log off.
Yeah. So a lot of people strangely conflate having a OST file with indexing. It is completely separate, two entirely separate things. You can have one without the other. And if you have a large mailbox, it's simply not enough just to roam your OST file. You need to be able to index that file as well. And it's not too bad in a client operating system to roam that when you've got a one user per VM to roam that. But in a multi-user operating system, it's awful, because there's only one indexing database for each machine. So you can't grab it all and roam it with the user. So what we do is we extract all the information from that indexing database, store it in the VHD, and then repopulate it on Logon. We're the only people who can roam an index on a multi-user OS.
Because now we have not an attached VHD or an attached folder, because we look at the file server, which are the open files. So let me zoom in. So it's standard computer management on the file server, and you see there's still the shares open that I used for the masking rules, but nothing else. Okay, now I go back, I log on Benny, and he gets both profile container and Office 365 container attached.
So we keep those separate because the Office 365 container just contains caches, and some people want to make sure they've got DR and resilience on their profiles.
Yeah.
So we don't want to include all the caches in the data that people are backing up and making resilient.
So we look at the RDSH server and see profile Benny and O365 are attached as VHDs on the RDSH server. So okay, this seemed to have worked. We got to take a look at the file server. Let's refresh that. Okay, for each we have the connection to the VHD file. Just compare it if you have roaming profiles. Now you have thousands of files that you connected to if you have roaming profiles. And now let's go back to the user. And the user opens Outlook, and we got to see, oh, Jim's email. Thank you to be on top. That was nice. And we do the same thing again. We say Kevin. We want to search for Kevin and check out what is the indexing status. So it could have been that there's one item because there was one new email, and now it indexes the new email. But this has already happened. And so we do not start from scratch. We really start from where we left off last time. And that is the power of this technology. And I mean, I don't want to show the profile roaming because, hey, you've seen it came up in the same way. It's attached.
Yeah. Anybody ever seen somebody roam a setting in a profile before?
This is why I put it into one demo, one user, because the Office 365 is a lot more spectacular. And when we did the benchmarking, we scripted all these search activities, and so when you go and read the blog articles, you will be redirected to all these videos that we published on YouTube, and you can just see how we did the testing. In the future we want to use it to do some testing for FSLogix customers, because they want to know what to expect as soon as they introduce this technology, if they're using some test users, because I configured it with group policies and with group assignments, so that individual users in my test environment have individual different modules that they can use. Even though it's the same RDSH server, I can just configure it in a way that user Adam is only using masking, while user Benny is also using not only masking but also using the Office 365 and profile container redirection.
So all the configuration for Office 365 profiles is done via registry, and we use standard tools to control the registry. So we've got AUX files for you. You can use group policy preferences if you like. You can bake it into the golden image. We don't care.
Yeah. So now I want to go and run your video. Where did you put your videos?
I don't know where you put them.
Oh yeah, I know.
The top one, 3 locations.
Oh okay.
Play that one that's called Honolulu.
Oh well, you know.
So just pause it if you wouldn't mind.
I pause it. No, it's up to you. Pause.
Okay. So this is going to show you 3 people logging in, and the first person to log in will have his profile locally, so in the same data center. So if you're going to press play, we'll just see that. An amazing look. You'll go and watch somebody type a password. It's a lovely demo. We'll see that 3 times. It's going to be amazing. Alright, that's super quick to log in. And now what we're going to do is going to get a second user. Now, their VHD is stored somewhere unusual. So their VHD is actually stored in S3. Right? It is a little slower than where it's local, but this is S3. Yeah? And there we go. And now we're going to do another user, and his profile is actually stored in Azure file storage. And now we've got 3 different users logged onto the same RDSH server. One with a VHD in the data set, one with a VHD in S3, and one with a VHD in Azure. That even has 2 gigs of data in the profile, and that's sitting in Azure. And we can see in disk management that I'm not telling a lie. And if we look at detach and we zoom in on that, we can see that that is looking at EC2. And pause.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I didn't warn him about that. I did something weird there, and I decided to keep it in the demo, because when I was looking at the path to detach that VHD so I could see the path, instead of going cancel, I hit OK. Yeah. So if you just rewind it a second, let's watch that again. So there you go, and it pops straight back in. So if we have a network problem, we will instantly reattach your VHD if you have an issue. This time I did it right, and I don't press OK, I press cancel.
Oh, it starts all over again.
Yes, yeah. So that is something that you can do now. We are making loads of improvements to this to be able to be. Yeah. So we're making loads of improvements to this ability to store your data natively inside both AWS and Azure, and we'll be having some really cool announcements very shortly about how to do that.
Yeah. It's going to follow you around the globe because you store it on cloud storage. If you want to. If you decide to do so. You can still store it locally in your own data center on the file server. It doesn't really matter anymore. So he is the master of putting that kind of demos together. So one time I gave him physical access to my little NOC from his home office in London, and he decided that he wants to reconfigure my entire machine, and I killed all my profiles. Everything that I had configured.
I only deleted it.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I think we have 5 seconds left.
So is there any questions in the last 5 seconds?
Oh, Batman. Yeah, they will be doing their session tonight in the hall.
Yes. So come and see me and Kevin. Well, it's not an FSLogix session at all. It's a community session. We won't be mentioning FSLogix, but we will be doing a deep dive into filter drivers, how they work, how to troubleshoot them, and how to watch out for bad ones.
I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah.